Haliburton-Kawartha Lakes-Brock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Premier. Last week, after the senseless violence that struck the Ottawa Valley, I asked the Attorney General just how many convicted offenders are released despite the refusal to sign probation orders. The Attorney General said she didn't know. In January 2014, Anastasia Kuzak went to the OPP because Mr. Barutsky violated his probation order, broke into her home, and violently beat her. Mr. Kuzak said that she thought he was going to kill her. His violent past should have raised every conceivable red flag. Just 9 months after Mr. Barutsky was released on probation, Anastasia Kuzak, Natalie Warmerdam, and Carol Colton are dead, allegedly at his hands. Mr. Speaker, why has the Premier failed in her commitment to combating domestic violence and take immediate action to ensure violent offenders are more closely monitored?
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I know the Minister of Community Safety and Correctional Services is going to want to comment in the supplementary. What I want to just say is that this was a horrible, horrible tragedy. And when it happened, it was shocking to everyone involved, and my heart absolutely goes out to all of the families and, quite frankly, to all of the communities. It was just a terrible tragedy. And, Mr. Speaker, it highlights why it's so important that we all work together, whether it's on the Select Committee, Mr. Speaker, or the changes that we are going to be bringing forward to legislation to make sure that there are supports for victims, that there are more protections put in place for people who are dealing with sexual assault and violence, and helping them to come forward, Mr. Speaker. And as I say, the Minister of Community Safety and Correctional Services will respond in the supplementary.
Thank you. Supplementary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It absolutely was a tragedy, and we could have tried to prevent it. So this government has failed to protect these 3 innocent women from a dangerous repeat offender who refused to comply with any court-ordered restrictions. This government is now putting more women at risk with its decision to cut the length of the partner assault response program from 16 weeks to 12 weeks because there are more than 3,000 offenders who are on the wait list. 3 years ago, the Domestic Violence Death Review Committee compiled a list of risk factors for enhanced assessment and safety, factors that the government should have acted on to prevent the murders of Anastasia, Natalia, and Carol. Their families, at the very least, deserve an apology and an explanation. Mr. Speaker, will the Premier explain why she's failing to act on the province's own committee's report to prevent the victims of domestic violence?
Thank you very much, Speaker. And I also want to echo the Premier and all members of this House is that the kind of incident that took place a few weeks ago in Wilno is shocking and is unacceptable. Speaker, we know that domestic violence is despicable and absolutely unacceptable anywhere in Ontario. Everyone, Speaker, has the right to feel safe in their home and in their community. And Speaker, all police services in Ontario are required to have policies and procedures in place for managing domestic violence investigations. To support police services across the province, the Ministry of Community Safety and Correctional Services have developed the Domestic Violence Occurrences Guideline, and police services in Ontario have designated domestic violence coordinator to provide a consistent approach for responding to domestic violence incidents. Not to mention, Speaker, we are putting emphasis on training through the Ontario Police College to make sure that we've got appropriate training for our police officers to avoid domestic violence. Thank you.